Hey, this is Carol Tudor, and believe it or not, I'm learning how to hook myself up to this deal. So I'm here, and Loretta came and showed me again, and I did all the steps myself, and I'm going to speak on you are what you fill in the blank, eat, drink, and breathe. And I talked about, hi Becky Mitchell. Oh man, that is a blast from the past. Way back in the 70s. I love that girl. And I had talking about the 5 invaders, but I'm not prepared for that yet. Next week I'll do the 5 invaders, and you will want to hear that because there's a lot of us that have invaders that we didn't know about. We have so tonight is you are what you eat. Let me have a prayer. Father, I ask you, give us your mind. You said in the scriptures, I heard Brother House say so many times, let this mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus. We can have your mind. Give us your mind tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. I'm looking at Romans 12, 1 and 2, and some of my favorite verses. I beseech therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you, and by the way, brethren means also sistren, okay? I beseech you therefore, sistren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, that holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world. Hello, Monica Rogers. Hello, Aaron. Hey, Aaron, Sig's dad. And be not transformed by and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of God. I'm going to talk to you tonight about the fact that you have a body full of living cells. This is why, and next week when I talk about the invaders and what we can do about some of the chronic illnesses we have that are just being treated with medications and they're not really being cured, we're not really well, or a lot of energy, or we can't lose weight. There's a lot of issues that, hello there, Aaron, and I still use the Bible you girls gave me when I got married, and it's going to be 22 years this fall that I got married. And I love that Bible. I love what you wrote in there to me. And so here we are. We're a living cell body. Now by that I mean every cell in your body, like your red blood cells, your white blood cells, your bone marrow cells, your brain cells, they all have a certain number of days that they are to live. I know that sounds sort of crazy. For example, RBCs, red blood cells, which gives you your hemoglobin, which gives you that's your oxygen, and your red blood cells carry everything to your body. You make those new every 120 days. And so we're constantly making new cells, and those cells after 120 days, they die and we get rid of them. Now, the problem is when we don't feed those cells the real ingredients that they need, well then we have weak cells. Of course, those of you mothers, and I admire you all again that are raising children. You have a tremendous responsibility. I admire you like crazy, and raising kids is one of the hardest jobs there is in the world. I have 2 adopted grandkids up in Indiana and miss them like crazy, and they eat all day long. And you say, how can a kid eat all day long? Well, they are producing millions of cells all day long, because they're in their growth. Now, those of us, I'm going to be 70, I'm not producing cells like that, although I am still making cells, but I'm not growing like my little Levi is or my little Hannah. And so we have this living cell body. And Christ said to us, he said, I beseech you therefore, brethren, sistren, that you present your body a living sacrifice. And what do? We feed it food that's in a box. I'm not going to go into my whole history, but I had an epiphany at age 45 due to some health issues, and I stumbled on a book called Why Christians Get Sick. It's still available. You can get it out there. It's by a Christian named George Malcolmus. And basically his theory is that we all reap what we sow. In other words, you are what you eat, drink, and breathe. And it goes on to say, breathing means oxygen. We need oxygen. We don't need to be raised in a home where there's smoking, where we get secondhand smoke. Unfortunately, some people have to work in those kind of situations. But our cells are made up of these ingredients, and you could add sunshine into that. So we are made up of what we eat, what we drink, and what we and what we breathe. Okay, now, we all know as a Christian, when we want to get rid of a bad habit, for example, let's say we just got saved and we were a big rock music fan. What we're supposed to do, and the principle is, you don't just give up the music and leave an emptiness there. You put in good music that will push the bad music out. So the principle is like it's like substituting the good for the bad. Well, that's the same thing that's true about food and drink. Anybody who knew me back in the 70s and 80s, I was a huge Diet Coke drinker. Coffee and Diet Coke, and really needed the caffeine to keep me going. Sadly, I joke about this, but some of you, I've mellowed out a lot, and of course hopefully we've all grown in the last 30 years since you knew me, but I could be very obnoxious, or actually I call it obnoxious, which is obviously obnoxious. Too much caffeine is not good for my personality. And so I drank a lot of pop and a lot of coffee, and mostly because I felt the need to keep going. I was working about 90 hours, and I was living in the dorm with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of girls. And so I had what I call the standard American diet. Standard, take the initials, SAD. Now, one of the things you got to understand about getting well, okay, we're talking about wellness. We're not just talking about treating disease. We're talking about, we want to be well. When you don't feel good, you don't want to go soul winning. You don't want to rejoice. You don't want to go knock on doors. Well, of course we can't right now. But we want to be where we are just full of life. And we're excited, and we have energy, and we feel great. And we're well, not just treating sickness. And so the approach of wellness is putting in good things so that your cells have the right ingredients. Now, when I was drinking all that Diet Coke, there was chemicals in there. I did diet because I didn't want the sugar, but the caffeine, and there's believe it or not, phosphoric acid, which thins your bones. All of your soda pop is really quite bad for your entire body. In fact, when I went to Dr. Cal Streeter, I learned a lot from him, worked for him in 94, 95, 96. And he taught me a lot. And one of the things he said is, I remember him looking at blood tests with somebody. And he said to the person, he didn't know the patient very well, and he said, "You're a pop drinker, aren't you?" And I said, "How do you know that?" And he showed me the test that shows where the person was having too much phosphoric acid. And so when we eat foods and drinks that have chemicals and or are processed and or hormones and or chemicals, pesticides, all of those ingredients affect our living cell body. One of the things when I had my epiphany, I happened to find a book called God's Ultimate Health. Along with that, Why Christians Get Sick. And in there, the Brother Roloff, those of you that remember him, was quoted, and Brother Roloff was a big juicer. He made fresh vegetable juice. In fact, he took his juicer with him on the airplane, and he was juicing because he was trying to get well because he had a bad case of ulcers. And he said, when you go into the store, now this is him, not me, but I found this in this book. When you go into the store, all of the food on the shelves that's in packages and boxes, it's dead food lying in state. And so we need living food. We need lots of vegetables, lots of salads, lots of fresh fruit, a small amount of healthy carbs. And then if you're a meat eater, you've got to have the meat that doesn't have hormones in it. So back in the 70s and 80s, as our food and as we got more pesticides and our food was injected with things. For example, there's a thing called IGF. It's an insulin glucose factor, and it's basically given to all the cows to make them get real big and fat. And I'm high in as, and so if our meat's injected and our chicken's injected and our fish are in waters that are full of mercury, then we're taking in, when we eat these things, we're taking in these other ingredients. So you are what you eat. I should have been a big can of Diet Coke. And my favorite pizza was pepperoni pizza. So if you are what you eat, I should have been a big pepperoni pizza. So before 45, I was basically eating what everybody ate. In fact, probably a little worse because I lived with teenagers and we partied all the time, and we would go, I remember I would take a whole carload of girls on Wednesday night to Dairy Queen, and I would get a peanut butter parfait, double the fudge, double the nuts. And at that time, I was a trim person, but I was already beginning to have several issues. And so you are what you eat. So we want to substitute bad foods with good foods. Now, just to give you an example, this is almond butter that I made at the store. And you can get this. I mean, there's no chemicals, there's no sugar. You just go over to the machine and you push the button and the almonds get ground up, and it's my husband and I love this. And that's the code. And it is the most delicious almond butter, and this is one of the major proteins we use and we eat. And it's so much more fun than now. We occasionally, if we can't get where we need to go, we'll get a jar of almond butter, just plain almond butter and salt from Sam's. We don't have a Costco here, but you can start looking, and there's really some good things out there. Those of you that live up in my old home state, Indiana, you've got the Costco. We don't have a Costco here. We have a Sam's, and we have grocery stores that are called Mama Jean's, and those are I go there and get what's on sale. And so almond butter is a great thing to use. In fact, I've got some chocolate candy that's made with this almond butter, delicious. And I make most of my own desserts. Don't eat a lot of them, but I do make them because of wanting them to be healthy. There's a Trim Healthy Mama. You can research this. Trim Healthy Mama chocolate zucchini cake that is to die for. All natural ingredients. And about 6-7 years ago, these two sisters got together and came up with. They actually are Christians. They experimented in their own kitchens, and they came up with grain-free recipes where you use coconut flour and almond flour. And there's sometimes they use a konjac flour, which is a root. It's a root, and then you put a zucchini in, and you use dark chocolate, unsweetened dark chocolate. They have their own sweeteners. You look at trimhealthymama.com. And by the way, I will do the same thing I did this week. I will put all of my pictures, websites, links. I will post them on my page. So the principle is, and especially if you want to get well. You want to substitute foods from a box or a can. Do I use some canned beans? Yes, I do once in a while. I try not to. I try to soak my own beans. I try to make everything fresh. But there's going to be times when I'm busy and I'm gonna need a can of or I buy organic. Interestingly enough, I went to Walmart today, and now this is where I get my avocado. You want to talk about, this is 3 avocados for, I think it was $3.25 or something, but they're organic. And the point I want to say is they never rot. I buy 2 bags of these. And by the way, one of my favorite breakfasts is sourdough bread with Amish butter. And then I take an avocado and I smash it. My husband and we smash the avocado. We put a pinch of cayenne and squeeze in the lemon, salt and pepper, and have the avocado toast. Love it. And these avocados, because no pesticides, they don't rot. And I hate when I buy an avocado, and it's the hardest thing. And avocados are really healthy for you. They're living. And so, this is just, my Walmart carries these. Check your Walmart out. My Walmart carries a lot of organic. And so what we want to do is we want to minimize processed foods. We want to minimize fast food restaurants. We want to minimize, just like we're not going to listen, those of us that are born again Christians, we're not going to be listening to a whole bunch of bad music. In fact, right now, we need to be putting in peaceful thoughts, and we need to be reading the Word of God, and we need to be going out and walking in the fresh air, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And so everything we put, you are what you fill in the blank. What are you eating and drinking and breathing that's you're going into your body so your cells can be living? Now, what happens when we don't feed our cells the right thing? I'm talking about the virus that's out there now, COVID-19. Predominantly 95% of the people who passed away had some chronic illness, or they are high risk because of their age. Like, for example, my husband and I are both high risk. We do have a lot of immune system. We're taking a ton of stuff. And we drank, today I had a big 8-ounce all-natural V8 juice with garlic and ginger and turmeric in it. And so we're doing a lot of things for our immune system. We're not afraid we're going to get it at all. But here's what happens. When you put the wrong foods in, then your cells have to fight off all that junk that's in your body. Okay, so let's say I was eating like I used to eat back in my 30s, and I was eating pizza and Diet Coke and Dairy Queen, and I was exposed to the virus. Well, my body is busy fighting off all the negative and the chemicals. So all my cells are busy, my immune system, my lymph system, my liver, my kidneys, which are one of your big detoxifiers, are having to take care of all these bad foods. Well, guess what? Then when a virus comes through, by the way, we're surrounded by viruses, folks. They're in the air all the time. And your body is we are a living cell, amazing self-healing body. You know, when you cut yourself pretty bad, it doesn't take long and that thing's healing over and got a scab. I mean, we have a body that God gave us that will hit if we'll feed it the right things. And so here I am, I'm exposed to the virus. Well, my cells are all compromised because I've been filling them full of pop and candy and hamburgers and hot dogs and pizza. Well, so then I succumb to the virus. Now let's take it the other way. Let's say I'm doing like I did today. I had 2 juices. I had a huge barley green. I had organic eggs. Karen Basham says I'm making her hungry. I had organic eggs for breakfast. I had some nuts. Okay, so I'm feeding yesterday I had organic, all grain free chicken tacos, made my own pico, my own salad. So let's say I'm feeding myself all this healthy food and living food. And then I come across the virus. Well, my body, my cells can respond and fight that off because my cells are strong and my lymph system is strong. It's not trying to take care of all these toxins I put in. And by the way, I don't want anybody to go on a guilt trip or feel bad or feel I'm judging them, because I know I sort of broke my body at age 45 by living this way. Like we've all been sort of blinded. And so I'm blessed because I got a hold of Cal and Dennis Streeter, and they're 2 Christian men, doctors they're DOs, Doctor of Osteopath, like I said on my first video. And they both practice in Maryville, and they are wonderful men. And they're 76 and 80 some. I don't know how old Dr. Cal is now, but Dr. Dennis Streeter is still operating on people. And he's 76 years old. He's amazing. He's always been taking vitamins and supplements and eating. I mean, he's amazing. And his wife Julie is a wonderful nurse, and they have a practice in Maryville, and so does Dr. Cal. Dr. Cal has taught me so much. And he said I wouldn't eat a hamburger if it was chasing me down the street. He said that once. Well, I'll eat a burger. I might make it out of venison, because venison is a clean meat. So what happens is, if you're not putting in the right thing, then you have no good immunity to fight off when a virus comes by. I got mono when I was 45, and mononucleosis, and that sent me on a journey. I started doing all my researching, started reading things. I found that book, Why Christians Get Sick. I found the book, God's Ultimate Way to Health. I started studying everybody who's found answers. I started, and back then there was no internet, because this was 25 years ago. I mean, well, there probably was, but I wasn't hooked up to it. And so I started reading books, and I got a hold of Hallie Akers. I started eating. I went to 80% vegetarian, and I started eating a big salad. You know, if you just did 2 things today, get off pop, and have a big salad every day. I was going to say 3 things, and drink water. You know, half of your body weight in water. Did you know that your water is so crucial, how much you need water? And that goes back to this, you are what you eat, drink. Did you know that when you don't drink enough water, your body goes to your colon and it takes dirty water, because it has to have water to work. In fact, there's some people say, I don't know what the percentage is, but your body's got a ton of water in it. So when you don't drink enough water, for example, let's say you weigh 150, you need 80 ounces minimum a day. And if it's a hot day, and it doesn't matter, if you're doing physically active, you need more. I try to drink at least 100 ounces a day of and mostly water and juice. I do occasionally do some lemon water. I will occasionally do a bai drink, which is sweetened with stevia, but pretty much water, barley green, and juice. And so your body needs water. And so guess what? when you don't drink it, your body goes to your colon, takes that dirty water, recycles it, which makes you tired. Dehydration has about 14 symptoms, and I would go see when I was a visiting nurse, I would walk in and go see my patients, and they would tell me, oh, they feel so tired and depressed. I'd say, how much water have you had today? Sometimes I would stay there an hour, and what I would do is I would sit down with them and have them drink 2 or 3 glasses to see what would happen. And right away, I did this with one of my patients. I called Aunt Betty. She perked right up within 30, 40 minutes. And of course, if you're on any medications, you really need extra water. All diuretics, high blood pressure pills, potassium, all of those types of things are very draining to the body, and they're hard on the kidneys. You need water to flush your system. Lemon is 16% protein. It's also very alkaline. It's very good for your body. So one of the things you can do is make lemon water. And I use a straw to protect your teeth, but you can use lemon water and stevia or just plain lemon water. So you are what you eat, eat, drink, and breathe. I'm on a journey now because I've learned some new things about my health at 70, and I'd like to get some more weight off. I've taken off 25 in the last 15 years and kept it off, but I'd like to take off another 20. But until my body's balanced right, it's not going to come off. But I am walking now, and that's my other thing about exercise. I'm walking 1.5 miles to 2 miles a day and keeping track of it, and that's really helping, and taking deep breaths. Lots of deep breaths. We need fresh air. And while you're on quarantine, get outside. Even if it's a little chilly, put on a coat, get outside, walk. Because your cells need that air. Your cells need vitamin D. I have a couple things here that I wanted to show you. When you purchase food, this is a Laura bar. It has 3 ingredients. That's all. It has dates, almonds, and unsweetened cherries. And these are a treat for us. But look for your on the back, look at your list of ingredients. And if you got a big list of ingredients, like I was showing somebody, it'd be far better, like sugar-free ice cream. Oh, it's just loaded with chemicals. I have, you can say, have a bowl of chemicals. Or take a bag of Doritos. In my class at Hyles Anderson, I used to take a bag, and I'd have the college kids go up to the board, and I'd have let's analyze every ingredient. And we would put up, we'd put marks, is that a food? Is that a chemical? Is that a dye? And you'd be shocked at how many dyes, how many colors. And dyes are very cancer causing. There's a lot of dye. Erin says, I taught her that in college. A lot of your pops, your Mountain Dew is just loaded with green and yellow 1. It's also got, lots of phosphoric acid and lots of caffeine. And so you've got a lot of dyes that are in things. So get yourself food, start reading labels, and like I said, I'm on my journey, and I'm doing some different things now. I'm on an antifungal diet because I found out I have some fungus in my body. Being an RN, I'm at high risk for different things. I was in Israel. I believe I got a parasite in Israel. So I'm on an antifungal diet. Well, I found these are grain-free chips. Delicious. And I will leave the name of it I got them at my local health food store. They are, and no salt. I do like salt, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. This was the only one they had though. But they taste more like normal chips. You don't have to go grain-free if you don't want, but if you've got allergies, or if you've got stomach issues, or you've got asthma, you're going to really want to look at getting rid of wheat. The big allergens, meaning wheat, any dairy product, corn. Our corn is genetically modified. Our corn is ruined. You really don't want to eat corn. It's so genetically modified, we don't know where the original corn was like. Now look, in the Bible, it was one of the better things. Fish and bread and corn. In fact, you look up Ezekiel 4:9, talks about the bread and what's in the bread. You want your foods to be more whole and real, and not full of whatever. So read those labels, watch those labels, and I love Mexican, and my husband loves Mexican, and I have to find a way to make it without having all the stuff that's made from corn. And believe it or not, when I eat that Mexican food that's grain-free, I feel great. And because I'm not feeding these parasites that I'm trying to get rid of. And I believe I got one in Israel in '84 and didn't know it. Didn't know it till I got down here to Missouri. So as you're learning about your living cell body, take a look at all the Bible verses. There's a lot. Daniel 1:8. In fact, the whole first chapter of Daniel has a lot to say about, he said he ate basically pulse and water. The word pulse means vegetables. He basically ate vegetables and water and came out a lot healthier and a lot smarter and a lot better. And he said, I'm not going to defile my body with the king's meat and the king's wine, which means a lot of rich food. And so you want to put in, it's really hard to get the vegetables in. I was talking to somebody today. Even me, I love vegetables, and so does my husband, and I am blessed. I got a partner. I don't know if he's listening, but I was going to have him stick his head out here. But my husband, Richard, is very into juicing and herbs, and he knew more about herbs when I married him than I did. He was the herb man. And he lost his first wife when she was only 53 or 54 years old. She dropped dead of a heart attack. And she died in a few hours. And they had been going to a nutritionist and trying to do some things. Well, when we married, we took our juicer on our honeymoon with us. And so I'm blessed that I have a partner who joins me in this. And he helps me chop all the vegetables. But even that, it is so hard to get, you're supposed to eat 5 to 7 fruits and vegetables a day. Now, I joined Weight Watchers I wanted to lose weight just for the enthusiasm and the support. Didn't do their box food. But one of the things, my leader taught me 2 things. She said, add vegetables to everything and drink lots of water. I learned those 2 things while I was in Weight Watchers, and that was back 20 years ago. And so, for example, when if I do some organic eggs, I scramble up onions, peppers, celery. Believe it or not, celery chopped up small in an omelet's delicious. So add vegetables. And so we've got to get in those living foods, fresh foods. If you're interested there are a lot of anti-cancer therapies out there, and what they do is they give the people raw food and juice. If I had cancer right now, I would cash in my 401 and I'd go to a clinic in Arizona where they do all the colonics and juices and food. It's all raw, and they have other treatments, vitamin C IVs. There is a tremendous amount of treatments, modalities, alternative medicine out there now. I will leave you some links, but there's cancer. Cancer can be defeated by diet and supplements. Yes, you do need supplements. Yes, you need some strong anti-cancer medication, but it can be given along with diet and exercise to where you have a quality life while you're fighting cancer. And so let me give you a couple other things. I want to talk about salt. The doctors take all the heart patients off salt. Folks, we are a beautiful chemical masterpiece. God says we were fearfully and wonderfully made. We have electrolytes in our body. We have salt, potassium, chloride. Those are all tested when you get a lab test. And so you don't need white salt, and they're right about that. The doctors, you don't need white salt, and you're not going to get enough iodine out of it. What you need is pink Himalayan salt, and this I got at Sam's, and it's pink Himalayan. There's also light gray, fine Celtic, CELTIC salt. You need salt. You just need the right kind of salt. I also brought out the thing that is life-changing, and that is if you have heartburn, you don't need an antacid. You need more hydrochloric acid, believe it or not. It's the opposite of what the world does. You don't need Zantac. In effect, if you're up to date, you know that they just pulled Zantac causes cancer, and people have been taking it for years. These 2 things, if you've got any stomach issues, heartburn, indigestion, bloating, these are, and I don't make any money off this, these are just the 2 that I got, and sometimes I change it, and I'll put this on my page, HCL. You get the hydrochloric acid, get the lowest dose, and start experimenting and see what helps. But we don't have any heartburn. And stomach issues, we double up on enzymes. Dr. Cal Streeter used to say anybody over 40 doesn't digest their food very well because they don't have the enzymes like they had when they were young. Again, because of the foods and things that have been done to the foods. I did not know it, but even like milk, the milk of today has an enzyme in it that's extremely dangerous. I we on the ranch have cows. Excuse me, we do have cows. We have horses, and we are a horse ranch, and we have a cult program for our boarding school boys. And along with that, we raise horses. And I talked to the head of our ranch, Riley Olson, who graduated from Howes Anderson. He is a fantastic young man, and right now they're giving birth to all these baby horses, foals, and they're beautiful. Oh, it's so much fun to go around and see them. My point is, though, that there's a grass. I asked him, I'm always hearing about these foals that die, and I'm going, why do these baby horses die? And so Riley told me that when there's a grass that has an enzyme in it, and it's a grass that they created that it just looks real green and it grows real nice. Well, the enzyme, if the horse eats it, which they do, they get a hold of some of this grass because they're out in the fields, and when they do, it creates mold in their body, just like us humans. We can get mold and fungi in our body. And what happens is the uterus, here's the pregnant mare, the uterus is real strong and rubbery, and it will not separate because of the mold. So that enzyme in the horse's food causes mold, and so then when the baby is trying to be born, he suffocates. So we lost 3 foals this spring. And I have my grandson, Levi Turner, praying for because he'll pray because he doesn't want the horses to die. And we're praying for the horses. But so all of us, including animals, you are what you eat. So whatever we put in is going to be to the good or to the bad. And remember, God said in the Old Testament, behold, I have sat before you a blessing and a cursing. We get to choose what we do. Now you ask me, is it expensive? Okay, we're debt free. We have no debt. We don't own a lot, but we're very happy. And we chose to spend a good portion of our money on quality food and supplements when we married 22 years ago. And that's our life insurance policy. We have a small life insurance policy too. But you say, well, we've been in Christian work. We were in Christian work my husband and I were both in Christian work our whole lives until we got laid off, and now we're back in Christian work. Well, I go 3 places. You remember the lady in Proverbs 31? She goes afar for food. I go 3 or 4 places, and I get what's on sale. And I go to. Fortunately, my Walmart down here in the boonies has a big, huge organic section. And so I go there. I go to Sam's because Sam sells almond flour. Sam sells several things I can get there. I get my kombucha there. I get my and then I go to the health food store and I use my coupons and my store discount, and I get some small amount of things that I can get there. Mama Jean's is somewhat like a Whole Foods, not quite as nice, but it's got a lot of. If I want some clean meat, if I want some buffalo, and then I'm blessed because I live here and I can get venison. I can get some clean hormone-free meat that they eat, vegetarian, and so I'm blessed for that. But yes, it can be done. It does take some juggling. It does take some work. And yesterday morning, my husband and I got up. It was Monday. It was time to make juice, and he went to go teach a class, and I spent the 2 hours he was gone. I cleaned everything, got the juice, got the carrots ready, got everything ready, and we've chosen this is what we're going to do. And when I got breast cancer in 17 years ago, I was 53, and they wanted me to go on tamoxifen. I looked it up, but they wanted me to take tamoxifen for 5 years. It's an anti-cancer pill, which is a chemotherapy, but it's not an IV. It's a chemical therapy. It's a pill. The side effects were this: uterine cancer. So I'm going to take a pill to prevent maybe having breast cancer again, but it could cause uterine cancer, blood clots, cataracts, osteoporosis, osteopenia. And it was going to be $500 a month. And so we talked it through, we dialogued, and I looked it up, and I figured out, well, there's an anti-estrogen supplement you can take that's like a substitute for tamoxifen. And then we looked at the top of the line juicers, and we found we got the Green Star Elite, and we got that juicer. And I started juicing. I did have a lumpectomy, but we started juicing, and I found out what broccoli and all the greens that are really good to fight off cancer. That's why you need greens. You need greens. Greens they feed your cells. They feed your living cells. And so we did that, and we still have the same juicer. We replaced the blades once. It was a great investment. Back in 17 years ago, it was $350. I think it's up to $600 now. But you want a juicer, you want a good juicer, and that's if you're wanting to fight chronic illness with that. But boy, I'll tell you what, we don't regret it one bit. And it does take some work. But I know with my history and my background, I don't even know if I'd be alive. I've told Dr. Streeter that before. But I have 9 aunts and all my parents, grandparents, everybody dead to cancer. My only living sibling died at 35 from a very bad case of MS. 3 other kids, everybody's dead in my family. I have 1 aunt that's out in the hills of Pennsylvania. Haven't seen her in a number of years. And so I know my cancer history, I could be gone. So therefore I'm going to choose to fight by using God's food, God's principles, and God's supplements. And I've got another 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you something that works really good. A lot of you have anxiety. By the way, next week I'm going to talk about how do you get to the root of some of the problems we have. For example, anybody has high blood pressure, they just give you a blood pressure pill. They don't say, now why does he have high blood pressure? What is going on in the body that we just get a pill for it. We want to find out why, because parasites can cause high blood pressure. Did you know exposure to EMFs from too much time behind a computer? Like if you're a computer person 8 hours a day, you need to be grounding yourself or protecting yourself with magnets. And so, but there's an anxiety factor going on, some because of the virus, but some because of our bodies are out of sync because we haven't had the right ingredients. This is called GABA. Again, I'm using this company right now. I'm not saying it's the best, but GABA, 750 milligrams, an excellent calming neurotransmitter. And GABA is something you naturally have in your body, but again, because we don't have all the right foods and we don't have all the right things going in, sometimes you need it. I use this when I drive in traffic. It really helps me. I saw this the other day and I bought it for a friend, and this was just a great deal. They're magnesium, sugar-free magnesium gummies for kids. And in your kids, if you have problems with constipation, magnesium is the key. However, I do think you should look into why are you constipated. Is it a low thyroid functioning problem? Because low thyroid can cause that. Low thyroid can cause terrible anxiety, panic attacks. 2 kinds of magnesium. I may switch brands. I'm not making any money off this. I should. I tell all this one is for persons who have constipation. This one's for persons who does not need laxative effect. And I use, my husband uses one, I use the other. Great, by the way, muscle relaxer, helps with sleep, helps with restless legs. Everybody, a lot of my patients were on drugs for restless legs. Be better just to take the magnesium. Now, a lot of people are on blood thinners. Natural blood thinner, nattokinase, learned it from Dr. Streeter, 2,000 units FUs of nattokinase. You don't have to be, by the way, Coumadin is basically a rat poison, and many thousands, millions of Americans are on it. Very dangerous blood thinners. We do not take that. And I think that's it for tonight. Oh, I got one more thing. Throat coat. Throat coat and Breathe Easy are my favorite herbal teas. And herbal teas can be utilized a lot when you've got upper respiratory issues. Again, if you think you've been exposed to COVID, that you need zinc, you need Schweppes because it has quinine in it, you need vitamin A, vitamin C, and vitamin D. Believe it or not, I read an article. I will post it on my timeline. There's a doctor I don't know where he's from, but he's treated 85 patients with COVID, all holistically. In fact, his people left the clinic. These COVID patients drove up to his clinic and they stayed in the car. The doctor and the nurses went out to these cars and gave these people IV vitamin C while they were in their car. I've never heard of such a thing. I'll send you the website. I'll send you the link. But there's a lot of things available out there for if you feel you've been exposed or if you want to build up your immune system. And that is up your vitamin C. And when I said lipo, I said liposomal, Liposomal. Liposomal vitamin C is broken down by the body a lot faster, don't have to take as much of it. You don't want to just get a bottle of pills that are hard tablets. Those don't work. And by the way, I've been under the care of a healthcare professional always. In fact, right now I have a wellness doctor. She's fantastic. She was a paramedic. She became a wellness doctor. I went today for an infrared treatment and a chiropractic adjustment. And then I have Nurse Evelyn, who's in Springfield. And for 25, 30 years, I had Dr. Cal Streeter. I did not learn this all on my own, although I have learned a lot of it. I got to say I had some great teachers. I've done a lot of digging. I've done a lot of reading, read a lot of books. As soon as I found out I had breast cancer, I looked up every single thing about it I could find out, good and bad, everything. And I'm going to close with this. Mrs. Evans was a person who, her philosophy was, even though she was a very positive person, her philosophy was expect the worst, but hope for the best. When she knew she had something wrong, she wanted to find everything out she could find out about it. She didn't just put her head in the sand. I mean, a lot of people right now are putting their head in the sand about what's going on. And we are the light, but we also are the light of the truth that's going on in our country. We need, if I pass away tomorrow, or if we get caught up, wouldn't that be great? I keep telling the Lord all the time, I want to be the one to fly up. If we could be the ones to go out of here, I want to leave a trail of truth that people can come back and say, hey, this lady told me about this, or I've heard about this, and I want to find out what the real truth is. And so I'm leaving a trail of truth on I'm very careful what I put on my timeline, both health-wise, spiritual-wise, political-wise. I'm weighing out what I put. And I want to be a person who sheds light in all areas. And so send your questions to me. You can private message me. I am taking some phone appointments. I can't really diagnose you. I can guide you, though, where to go. And I can also help you find wellness doctors, wellness clinics. They're out there. People are wanting them. And next week, remind me I need to share what's going on, why the medical system is so complex. I've been going about 40 minutes now, 45 minutes. I need to get off here. But I want to explain to you why the system is so complex and also what you can do about this 5 big invaders that we have. Bacteria, viruses, which are very sneaky, parasites, fungus, and mold. Shocking that we can get those all in our body, but we can. And so this has been great, and I thank you. I see so many of my former students and friends in there that are so teachable, and I appreciate you letting me be a blessing. I appreciate you. Thank Mrs. Trieber. She's the one that talked me into this, and she is the lady who's really lived this. I'm there's different kinds of examples. I'm the one who sort of messed up my body by the time I was 45, not knowing. And remember my key verse, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, Hosea 4:6. But Mrs. Trieber, that lady's got some great knowledge. She's never been to a hospital. She's had all her babies at home. She doesn't take drugs, and she's an amazing lady. And I think she's going to live till she's 110. And so I'm signing off now. Love all you folks out there. Thank you for you California people. So many, you know how I love y'all. Bye-bye.